the courage of Jesus. Fear not, Luke 5:10. Speaking about courage means discussing a topic that is alive and relevant. Courage is a virtue that is admired by everyone and has been admired since the beginning of time. Throughout history, every nation has looked up to brave individuals. In ancient times, the Egyptians, Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Macedonians, Romans, and Greeks all celebrated bravery. Even in the 19th century, the Boers, and in the 20th century, the Japanese, glorified this quality. Courage is not limited to any specific race, generation, or religion. It is a fundamental characteristic of human nature and a vital component of one's character. Is there anyone so morally corrupt that they do not aspire to have courage? Is there anyone so insignificant that they would not take pride in being considered brave? In the English language, there are 3 words that strike deep at the core of our being: thief, liar, and coward. Among these, coward is the most condemnatory. Therefore, when we examine the ideal individual, we would expect to see a remarkable display of courage. And indeed, in Jesus of Nazareth, we witness the epitome of bravery, the pinnacle of courage, and the highest level of heroism. There are different types of courage. One type is physical courage, which is instinctual and runs in both humans and animals. It is the ability to face danger and suffering without fear. However, the courage of Jesus was different. It was a higher and nobler kind of courage. His courage came from his mind and heart. He thought carefully about the risks and sacrifices involved and chose to face them. His courage was not like military courage, which is common and often seen in battle. Military courage is fueled by the excitement and momentum of a fight, making it easier to ignore danger and death. However, Jesus' courage was not influenced by these factors. He faced challenges alone, standing up against injustice and hypocrisy in a time when no one else would. Even when his followers abandoned him, he remained steadfast and confident, knowing that he was not truly alone because God was with him. There is also a type of courage that arises in extraordinary situations. It is the courage that people show during events like fires, floods, or shipwrecks. We admire the brave firefighters who risk their lives to rescue others from burning buildings. We are inspired by the men who venture out into rough seas to save sailors stranded on sinking ships. This kind of courage is remarkable, but it is not the same as the courage Jesus displayed. His courage was not born from such intense moments. Instead, it was present in the ordinary days of life, where there was no extraordinary event to ignite bravery. If you were to portray Jesus as a hero, what situation would you imagine him in? Would you picture him cleansing the temple, driving out the animals, and overturning the money changers' tables? Or perhaps you would imagine him standing up to his enemies, the scribes and Pharisees, in the streets of Jerusalem, speaking powerful words that still resonate today. Another option could be capturing the moment when he confidently revealed his identity to the men who came to arrest him in the Garden of Gethsemane. Or maybe you would paint him on his way to Golgotha, comforting the women who mourned for him and urging them to weep for themselves and their children. These scenes are undoubtedly vivid and exciting, etched into the minds of those who have read the New Testament. They showcase heroism in its purest form. However, I want to draw your attention to different situations. If you were to ask me to illustrate Jesus' courageous heart, I would first take you to Nazareth. It was there that he announced his mission to the people who had known him since he was a boy. He had to say things that would offend, but he spoke the truth nonetheless. It is incredibly difficult to estrange ourselves from the respect, sympathy, and love of those who have known and valued us for many years. Jesus did just that on that fateful day in Nazareth. By speaking the truth, he alienated the minds and hearts of the people who had watched him grow up and whose admiration meant the world to him. He showed immense courage that day. Another example of Jesus' bravery is seen in the streets of Capernaum. There, he addressed a crowd of 5,000 men whom he had recently fed in the desert near the Sea of Galilee. He came into the world to bear witness to the truth, but many were not willing to accept it. At the beginning of his speech, everyone was enthusiastic, but as he spoke, the crowd began to dwindle. The 5,000 became 3,000, then 2,000, then 1,000, and so on, until only 12 loyal men remained by his side. Even they seemed uncertain. In the face of this dwindling support, Jesus asked them if they too intended to abandon him. This is an incredibly challenging situation. A religious teacher finds fulfillment in the ears and hearts of those who listen to them. To maintain their support, teach them, and inspire them is the pinnacle of their purpose. However, teaching the truth, even when the congregation diminishes, requires an extraordinary amount of courage and determination. Jesus consistently demonstrated this kind of courage, not just in Capernaum, but in every situation he encountered. It is not easy to offend society and lose one's reputation. In Jesus' time, people were very strict about fasting, sabbatical laws, and hand-washing rituals before meals. However, Jesus didn't value these practices as much and didn't follow them. He believed that everyone was equal and didn't pay attention to the divisions society created. He associated with people who had lost their social standing, even though it caused him to lose his own reputation. It takes a lot of courage to go against society's expectations and give up popularity. Jesus did even more than that. He gave up the good opinion that many people had of him. When he first appeared, people were excited and saw him as the promised Messiah. But Jesus didn't fit their ideals and didn't conform to their fixed ideas. He spoke the truth, even if it meant being accused of blasphemy. He was willing to do his duty, even if it meant being seen as a lunatic and a traitor. Only the bravest of heroes could face such challenges. But the ultimate test is not just withstanding enemies, it's withstanding friends. Many people can resist those who oppose them, but struggle to resist the opinions and desires of their friends. Peter, Jesus' closest friend, tried to dissuade him from his path, but Jesus firmly rejected his words. Even Peter, James, John, who were Jesus' loved and trusted friends, couldn't sway him from his mission. Jesus showed incredible courage throughout his life, and anyone who wants to be brave should read about his story in the New Testament. Look at how he faced the certainty of being mistreated and killed as he headed Io Jerusalem. Yet he would not give in to his friends pleading for him to stop. You may have known someone who has tried to change things to make them better, but who has been opposed and has given up. They say things like, "I won't spend the rest of my life beating my head against a wall. No one listens, no one appreciates me, and I get nothing but stubborn opposition and abuse. I'm sick and tired of it, and I'm done." How natural, how human that sounds. Maybe you have said it yourself. You have tried to change something and have been misunderstood and abused. You have given up and said, "Let somebody else do it." Why do people talk like this? Because they are cowards. Only cowards surrender. Only cowards get tired and sick. Jesus steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem and never turned back until he reached the cross. Watch Jesus as he continues on his path, stepping on all the valuable things of this world, disregarding the ambitions that drive others and dismissing the rewards and joys of life. Create a list of the things you consider most important and worthwhile, and you will realize that Jesus considered each of them insignificant. With the confidence of a victor, he proceeds towards his death, declaring, "I always do what pleases my Father." And yet, Jesus never lets his courage turn into pride or recklessness. Some people have criticized him because he sometimes escaped and withdrew from the people. He chose to retreat to secluded places, not because he was a coward, but because he was incredibly brave. Living a life like Jesus did is more difficult than dying. He hid to avoid the anger of his enemies, wanting to stay a little longer to spread the truths that would save the world. Every year, countless men choose to end their own lives because they lack bravery. Jesus, on the other hand, carried his burdens and endured the cross until his work was finished. With such a temperament, it's no surprise that he acted like a hero at every stage of his trial. When the soldiers insulted him, hit him, cursed him, and spat on him, he never uttered a word. He was so brave that he dared to remain silent, just like a sheep being sheared. When he finally stood before Pontius Pilate, he stood so confidently that Pilate became afraid of him, and his heart skipped a beat when Jesus said to him, "I was born for this reason. I came into the world to testify to the truth." And when they finally nailed him to the cross, the only thing he said was, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing." The philosopher Rousseau was correct when he wrote his famous line, If the life and death of Socrates reflect the wisdom of a philosopher, the life and death of Jesus reflect the divinity of a god.